Well, welcome to this little presentation on the first HSC assessment task for 2015. Obviously, the first task here for English Advanced was the area of study response that was done for the motorcycle diaries. So hopefully a way of looking at this first task for those who did well, it's looking at a way in which you could obviously improve your performance when we get closer towards the Parramatta Marist trials and the CSSA trials, but also looking at ways in which, for those who may not have done as well as they would have liked, how we can hone, how we can change, and obviously how we can improve on various technical aspects of what we're doing to improve the ultimate performance of your writing in the next task that will be done on this area. The first area of this evaluation is going to look at the whole question, and we need to consider the question first before we start to understand where our response sat on the marking criteria, and that's coming up shortly. So the question again was, unexpected events and experiences can lead individuals to profound discoveries and new perspectives. Obviously then you were asked to evaluate the statement with reference to your prescribed text and one related text of your own choosing. As you can see the way the question has been coded here, you've got the first section in green, which is unexpected events, the section in blue, experiences, the third section in red, individuals, and then the light purple colour there obviously brings together that whole idea of discoveries and new perspectives. The question asked very clearly for you to name some unexpected events, which means you needed to identify some unexpected events. You then needed to match those unexpected events with a range of experiences and then looked specifically at how an individual responded to these events and experiences in a way that demonstrated very clearly in relation to the motorcycle diaries and your related text how these discoveries and new perspectives were made known. In further considering the question, I think it's important to have a look at the following 2 points. There were more than one aspect to the question, as I've indicated on the previous slide. Again, unexpected events and experiences lead to profound discoveries and new perceptions. As I've said here in the second point, a number of students did not indicate how events and experiences were unexpected and or how discoveries were profound or how perspectives were new. And examples I've put here by contrasting a past perspective to the new one discovered. Even fewer students made an attempt to evaluate this statement at different levels. Now you've got to remember too, within this task you are required to firstly break down those elements of the question which were on the previous slide, but what you had to do was you had to make sure that you very specifically named these. You needed to name obviously the way in which these particular discoveries were profound and how they impacted an individual to realizing and understanding a new perspective. In moving to the marking criteria, and I want you to pay careful attention to this, remember that each response that is submitted to the examiner is viewed as a 15 out of 15 to begin with. The response as it's read is then allocated at the end a particular performance band, and that's a performance band of A through to E. Within that band, a specific mark is then allocated. If you have a look at the marking criteria here for the A and the B range, you can see in that first red section, to demonstrate effectively how unexpected events and experiences can lead individuals to profound discoveries and new perspectives. You can see with any marking criteria in English, you are going to have the question framed in that first point. So you need to be looking at what are the key terms of the question. Those have been unpacked for you in the previous slides. You need to have a look at the way in which, obviously, you've been able to demonstrate effectively those specific elements of the question, and that has to do a lot with topic sentences. I'm going to talk about a thesis and a topic sentence later in this presentation. The second bullet point there, we move into the range of effective response based on relevant and detailed textual knowledge. One of the things here is a whole lot of people are using textual references that do not either support their main thesis or do not support the topic sentence that is being launched in a particular paragraph. Be very selective on what piece of evidence you are using to support your thesis and then to support your topic sentence. A whole lot of people are using pre-prepared material, and that stands out, and that costs a number of people because it's very difficult obviously to present an effective response which is based on relevant detailed textual knowledge if the textual examples you are providing are not relevant to the question. Pre-prepared responses will leave you short in this regard every time, and some boys lost significant marks for that in this task. The third point, obviously, organising, developing and presents an effective response using language appropriate to audience, purpose and form. In this particular section, I'm looking for structured topic sentences, sentences that are well constructed, sentences that obviously are free from significant spelling and punctuation errors. In this particular section here, you need to be able to obviously effectively have a structure, using the Peel structure, that supports the development of an argument in a topic sentence. A supporting series of textual evidence that is then obviously linked to that topic sentence, and then also a concluding sentence for a paragraph that then links to the topic sentence of the following paragraph. Having a tightly structured, well-rounded response like that will allow you to access this mark range. You can see then in the B range these three areas, but obviously done at a competent level, a step further down the line. Moving to the marking criteria for the C range. A couple of boys found themselves in here, and this is an area where an advanced student should not be. Understandably, for task 1, you might have found yourself here, but if you are here, I don't anticipate you staying here, and we're going to be doing everything we can, obviously, to move you back up into that B range. We then look at the same 3 points, but you see we move to the area of adequately here. So either you adequately address those key elements of the question in that first bullet point there. The second bullet point, again, obviously refers to the selection of textual evidence. Now, this is where a number of people who had pre-prepared essays fell straight into the C range. The textual events and examples they were using did not support the key terms of the question. And then lastly, organisation and the development of the response in terms of the language, the purpose, the form, and the audience was not clear. It was either convoluted, there were spelling errors, there was grammar errors, there were no paragraphs, there were poorly structured paragraphs, and there were very, very unclear arguments launched in a particular response. Moving to some sample introductions. You can see in this particular first sample of the introduction a very clear outline of exactly how the question has been responded to in that first sentence as the thesis. We then have a very clear introduction of both texts that are going to be discussed to support both the thesis and also then develop topic sentences. I encourage you to have a read of this. We look at sample introduction number 2. Again, this is a B range response. In looking at the B range response here, we see very closely some of the similarities with the A range response, a clear thesis. We also see the 2 texts that are introduced for discussion, but again, the language in this particular B range response lacks some of the sophistication that we saw in that first A range response. We move now to the C range response. This C range introduction here again is identifiable. It obviously has a opening thesis, but as we move through that sample introduction and the introduction of the texts that are going to be discussed and the development of the thesis, we see then again a step further back from the A and the B range introductions. I encourage you to have a look at this. A little bit of general feedback. Many students did not respond to the aspects of the question regarding, as I've said previously, unexpected events, number 1 there, or 2, the experiences, and how these specific events and experiences can lead individuals to profound discoveries and new perspectives. I encourage you to look to develop a more evidence-based argument within your writing. You need to be able to connect key themes between your prescribed and your related texts. Typically, the length of responses in the HSC are 6 to 8 pages, which will give you roughly between 800 and 1,000 words. Remember, that's under 40 minutes. Many people, I was pleased to see, in this particular task wrote 2 books or more. Remember, if you're writing a 3rd book, at times there were some boys who supplied 3 books, but again, the question was adequately answered in 2. This didn't necessarily mean that a student got an A in this particular case, but remember too, you need to be very focused with your writing. I've seen very good responses in 2 booklets in the A range, again, but I've seen responses with 3 and 4 booklets that have been in the C range. You must be very focused in addressing the question. Legibility. There are some issues that arose over excessive scribbling out, which indicated poorly planned or rushed responses. A number of people, as they've gone through their particular response, have started a sentence, scrubbed out the whole sentence by scribbling all over the top of it, and then sought to try and write that sentence again. Again, a lot of misspelt words people are crossing out along the way. Step back with practice, allow yourself some time, and make sure what you're putting on paper is well planned and coherent. It says a lot to your examiner when they look over your response and there's a lot of scribbling out all over the place. It reeks of an unprepared response. Paragraphing. Now this came up again. Remember to use strong topic sentences, supporting evidence and explanations using the Peel scaffold. A whole lot of people did this very, very well. There are a number of people that missed the opportunity to structure their argument in a coherent way using clear paragraphs. A paragraph, remember, cannot run for a page. Be very mindful of this. Critical analysis. Many students got caught in the trap of descriptive recount, outlining the plot, characters, themes of their prescribed and related texts. Too many responses relied on generalizations, unincorporated quotes, generic references to the play, to the text, whatever you've chosen to use here, and a recount-based approach to your response. Remember, you are not retelling a story, you are using selections from both texts to answer a question by proposing a strong argument. And remember, an evidence-based discussion is central to accessing the higher mark ranges. Please don't recount the plot to me or whatever examiner you may have. The examiner is very familiar with the plot and the story of your prescribed texts. What they want to see is how you use very well selected sections of those texts to develop an argument. Related material will be the last part of this presentation. Better selections have been made regarding related material. On the whole, it wasn't done too badly, but I would encourage a number of you, and I will speak to you when we resume class about the selection of your related material. Remember, you are not looking for a text that mimics or in any way completely mirrors the characters and events of your prescribed text. You are looking for a related text which, on the basis of a theme, firstly connects strongly with the area of study discovery, but a text that allows you to look at themes that overlap between your texts. Remember, there needs to be some good common points of connection between the prescribed text of the Motorcycle Diaries and your related text. Look for a rich text that is able to connect to various levels of the area of discovery rubric. Be aware of the New South Wales HSC Standard Extension 1 prescription list in addition to our own advanced one. You're advised not to use any of the texts on this list, and I have put down for you there obviously where those can be found online. Be very conscious. The Board of Studies does not put a complete ban on this, but you've got to remember too that when your paper makes its way to the marking centre, you are going to have markers who have taught standard, advanced or extension that year, and it does not look very good at all if you've got a student in advanced who is using a standard prescribed text, an advanced prescribed text, or an extension 1 text as part of their work. It looks like very sloppy scholarship all round. Some final thoughts. I was very pleased overall with the nature of the task, and again there were some boys who did some exceptional work and were awarded handsomely. Remember, it is not an easy road in advance to simply walk up and just grab marks off your examiner. You've got to earn every single mark that you have, and I'm pleased to say that in what I'm seeing produced by a number of students in both classes here as a cohort, we go together, and it's very pleasing to see the work that is going in by boys in being prepared and taking on feedback in the drafting stage. It's so important. And that's why I say the next steps here. If you're disappointed with your mark, no one got 15 out of 15. We had a couple of 14s, some good 13s, some very strong 12s. But again, we want to move a couple of people out of that C range as well, and boys out of the B range into the A range. Remember, drafting, revision of key content, length of your response, and answering the question. Those are the key things. Some, as I've indicated on your script presentation, handwriting and paragraphing are going to be critical. And lastly, the key ingredient here, relevant, complementary, related material that goes along the lines of your prescribed texts and allows you to do some proper analysis on the area of study as required. Overall, look at the feedback presented both in the comments throughout your essay as well as the summary 3 bullet points that I've given at the bottom of each of your essays, as well as this evaluation video to help you evaluate your own performance. But also remember, your teachers want you to do well, your teachers will work with you, and remember, be open to feedback, be open to progress, and the rest, with some hard work, will put you well on the way to elevating your performance.